Welcome everyone to today's panel on responsible AI. I'm Zach Totorakis. I'm an AI specialist, as you can see, and I will be the moderator for this session. So today we will dive into how responsible AI can help organizations innovate and scale with confidence when it comes to AI. So just to give a little bit of context, which is always helpful in LLMs as well as in humans, we've seen in previous talks today that organizations tend to move slowly from all these experimentations and proof of concepts into more enterprise scale solutions. So responsible AI is kind of at the center of that, and it helps us transform this initial ambition into something that is more of a sustainable benefit. And we've also seen how this space is rapidly shifting, and we see new models coming out. So how do organizations use AI or build AI themselves in a way that has responsible AI at its core for long-term strategy and value? So we will cover a lot of considerations across domains like technical, obviously, ethical, but also social, environmental, cultural, and of course governance, and the critical links between responsible AI and cybersecurity. So let me kick off this conversation with the first question. Now, as companies move from proofs of concept into more enterprise scale solutions, what changes? What are the things that we need to be thinking about? Laura, we'll start with you.
A really important question, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So before anything else, we need to really think about what are the right foundations that we have to have in place as organizations. So that means thinking about the right knowledge in terms of AI, but also the right organizational structures and processes too. And we really need to have all of those things in place. The best time to have all of that set up is before you start the process of introducing AI into your organization. But the second best time is now. So if you don't have those in place, now is the absolute best time to get that underway so that we can make the most of the technology. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've seen quite a lot in my research with the public over the years is there is this growing public awareness around AI, the benefits and the risks, and they've got real questions about what organizations are doing in terms of AI and also in terms of what the impact is on them as well. So we have real questions to answer, obviously, responsibilities to our customers and to members of the public, as well as regulators and our stakeholders as well. And we really need a holistic approach to AI, as you were just describing, that takes into account not only the technical, but also the social, the ethical, the legal, the environmental and the governance aspects as well. Yeah. And in that way, we make sure we're not missing any critical opportunities for both innovation and for risk management as well.
So you build like a framework. And then, Sarah, moving over to you from a delivery perspective.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I sort of come at a slightly different lens. Of course, all those things are critically important, but just specifically around delivery, I think some of the things that changes are you need to be really disciplined about your use cases, first and foremost. Not everything that can be built should be scaled. You need to focus on where you're going to get meaningful impact and tolerable risk. So that would be one thing that I'd consider. Another thing comes down to testing, evaluation, and monitoring. They really need to be continuous. It's not enough to have a one-off model performance metric or benchmark. You need to see how those are performing in the real world, and you need to surface that and make it available. And then finally it's an operational challenge, it's not a technical one. I know we've heard this said many, many times before, but it's really, really important that you've got that clear ownership and accountability established and processes for when things go wrong. Those sort of things are often overlooked when you're sort of in the early stages, but it's crucial to scaling AI.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, Ali, if you want to share your view from a cybersecurity lens.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at all of the talks today and listening to how much work is being done in this space, I keep thinking there are agents, there are tools, there are new platforms, and we're interacting with all of them in new and different ways, and we're opening up all of these new planes for us to get attacked, right? Yeah. And so how are we thinking about it? Are we thinking about the changes to our security posture? Are we asking our clients and the people that we care about, the organizations that we work so closely with, are we asking them whether their security controls are changing? That's like the starting point, right? But then there's the skill set gap. There's a massive black box effect that's coming in place, whether that's SOC augmentation or development pipelines, SDLC, the tools that we keep introducing. There's a whole new category of tools called AI Trism, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that if I get the chance. But I think the idea over here is that there's all of this like change, and we have to adapt to it. But it's also, are we thinking about the governance? Because responsible AI is part of that process, right?
Yeah, and I think we'll come to that a little bit later. But from what I'm hearing is basically that a lot of things change, but at the end of the day, we're still delivering solutions. So in a way, AI is just is also another tool that we can use. So that's quite interesting. So moving on to the next topic then, all around innovation and governance. So we almost sometimes these two are framed as opposites to each other, yet our experience so far has proved that when enterprises go to large-scale solutions, then they find that responsible AI and having that governance at the center is quite key and quite important to move forwards. So, Laura, I'm going to come to you first again. The question is, how do you see responsible AI like practices can help companies innovate with confidence?
And that's so critical. So yeah, absolutely. Having AI governance in place is absolutely crucial to enable innovation in organizations. And that's not only in terms of protecting the organization, but also in terms of being able to reduce uncertainty. Yeah. As humans, you might have noticed we really don't like uncertainty, and we will do anything we can to avoid it, generally speaking. So having the right governance in place really helps with that. It can also help unlock investment as well, which is also really crucial. So there's a lot of great things that having the right governance in place can really provide when it comes to AI. It's also important to think about teams being provided with the right clarity and confidence to move forward as well. So if they are aware, if they have that AI governance framework to work to, they know, again, what they need to do. It also reduces the risk of having to rework, so having to repeat work or redo it later. And you can help identify blockers and risks early on in the process so that you are much less likely to come to a point where AI projects aren't progressing in the way that you would expect them to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because basically we've heard in talks here as well that there's a lot of skepticism around AI, and I'm assuming that having governance is essentially having some sort of shield in this new space, this new uncharted territory in a few cases. So having a structure kind of gives confidence to people who need it, and we should all need that. So moving on to the next question to talk about risk specifically, and I'm looking at you on this one, Ali. Is basically we've heard in previous talks on this session as well a lot about data privacy and security, and a lot of people have all these concerns, which is rightfully so, because AI seems to be amplifying these existing risks. But also, and specifically with generative AI, it brings its own inherent risks as well as a technology and as a tool. So from your perspective, what do you think that organizations usually underestimate when it comes to risk?
I think it's the trust models. It's how much trust do you place in the agents, how much trust do you place in the platforms that you're consuming from and that you are interacting with. Now, how many of the folk in this particular theater currently ask their agents to do something, and then the agent says, I'm about to run this bash command, I'm about to run this test, and they don't get the chance to validate it. It kind of goes away, does it on your Mac, on your Windows laptop. What is it doing in the background? How often do you actually get a chance to actually understand that? The risk isn't about what it's running, because 99 or maybe 999 out of 1,000 times it's going to be absolutely fine. It's that one time that it's going to wipe your disks out like it did for the AWS folk, right? It's about the understanding that model, and then also creating the structure. I mean, Laura, you were talking about governance. It's the structured security posture management approach to interact with the AI, because these tools are not going away. They are powerful. They enable organizations to move fast, to build things that actually matter We've been looking at the implementation and the applied changes that they're bringing along. And so there's the other side to this coin, right, which is, are you thinking about zero trust principles when you are interacting with these tools? Are you thinking about secure by design? Are you looking at threat modeling right at the start? James did an excellent talk earlier today where he was going through a lot of the SDLC part of this particular puzzle. But the risks are underestimating how much work the validation part of this is, rather than just the consumption model of it all.
Yeah, perfect. Laura, do you want to go next?
Thank you. To add to that as well, so the most critical thing that comes up time and time again for me is coming back to really the very basics of asking, what problem is it that we're trying to solve when it comes to AI? And if we start there, that really helps us to work it out nice and straightforward, because if you don't start by asking that, basically you can run the risk of going down the wrong path very quickly, and running into more risk than you might have otherwise. When you're asking that problem, when you're asking that question, what is the problem? AI may be one of the answers. That may be one solution to that problem, or it may not be the answer to that problem at all. And the sooner we can be clear about that and we can figure out, okay, which problems are suitable for AI and useful for AI to solve, the better. The other thing that I do see quite a lot is when we're talking about off-the-shelf generative AI tools, which is what a lot of us have been speaking about and what we have been using, is there can be an assumption sometimes that because it is an off-the-shelf tool, because it is publicly available, that someone else has kind of dealt with all the risks and that we don't need to think about it ourselves, be it as an individual or as an organization. And so this is where having AI awareness training for staff comes in as a really critical part of that. Staff need to be aware not only of the sort of technical information as to how to write a prompt, for example, but also some of those other risks we talked about in terms of the social, the ethical, the environmental, and so on, legal as well. Can't forget that one, that's quite important. So having sort of, fully fledged AI awareness training that takes that holistic approach is really important as part of that risk management too.
Yeah, perfect. And Laura, from your side?
Yeah, if I could just add a couple of things. I think one thing
Sorry.
You're all good.
I'm looking at you.
Organizations tend to underestimate the impact of things like automation bias and over-reliance on AI, right? AI is becoming more and more embedded into our workflows, and people sort of start to trust it almost by default. And particularly because the outputs are so well written, they're so well structured, they're confident and you get them immediately. It's sort of, they come across as far more authoritative than they perhaps are. And that can sometimes lend itself to people, they stop questioning, they stop applying their context. And they can sometimes end up deferring to the system even when it's quite obvious that there is something wrong. So I think what's really important is, we need to have people who are given time to analyze and interrogate outputs as part of the process. It's not just enough to sort of have human in the loop. They need to be given the time to consider it. Otherwise, it's just a rubber stamping exercise. So I think that's quite a big risk that we face. And then another one we mentioned actually in the panel earlier is around accountability. We've got AI, it can support decisions, but it can't own them. So accountability has to lie with people. So the more we have AI involved in our decision making, we have a bit of a fundamental question, right? Who owns the outcome? Is it the person using the system? Is it the team that built it? Or is it the organization that deployed it? And in many cases, that isn't clear. And that can create some legal and operational ambiguity, right? And that's an issue, especially when things go wrong. What we tend to see in practice is a bit of a diffusion of responsibility. So there's the assumption that the system is responsible, but nobody feels accountable for validating or challenging it. So yeah, that's something that we need to counter. It's a problem, right? Accountability doesn't just disappear because AI is involved. If anything, it's more important. So organizations need to be really explicit about ownership, who's responsible for oversight, where does that accountability ultimately sit?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, we've probably all of us had the experience of interfacing with an LLM, with our favorite LLM, and then asking a question, getting back a wrong answer, then saying, oh, this is clearly wrong, and then we get an apology and a completely different, maybe the opposite answer. But that in real world and in organizations and in enterprises, when you have a solution that is really, this decision is critical, You can't just say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or you may be facing serious consequences, right? So yeah, that's good. So. Sure. So we've covered a lot of ground with all those previous questions. We've talked about innovation and governance and risk and how these all tie together. So I have one final question because some of the organizations here today are already on their journey, but some are starting very slowly, or they start to explore AI. What do you think, in your opinion, and we'll start with you, Laura, we'll ask every one of you, would be the most important thing that they should prioritize as they kick off in their journey? You said that their journey with AI starts today. What's that thing to prioritize?
Yeah, absolutely. So from today, it's really got to be about the AI governance. And that doesn't only mean having a framework, but actually implementing it, getting it set up, getting it embedded within the organization. It needs to not only tie in with your existing programs like your privacy, your data privacy and your security, but it also needs to cover the specific AI risks as well. So it really needs to connect with those, but also to build on them as well. And that's going to be absolutely critical.
Okay. Ali, from your perspective?
When was the last time your security program was reviewed? Think about the AI security posture management part of the puzzle. There's a whole new category of tooling called AI trust risk security management. There's a little bit of bloat in there, if that's the right way to talk about it. But it's really important because there are 4 categories of tools in there. So the first one is the AI security observability suite of tools. If you don't have that available, you can still use your current tools to understand and sort of feed it into your centralized SIEM platforms of security, incident and event management tools. Your runtime has to be context specific for what your AI tools are doing and the AI platforms you're interacting with. So if you don't get visibility to that, you're probably going to be in a bad place at some point in the next few months, in the next few years, as AI consumption increases. And then there is the misconfiguration management. Your platforms aren't completely secure. Out of the box, there are obvious issues, exposed endpoints, buckets that you might be interacting with, different types of data stores. And how you're labeling and your data security posture management suite of tools is also extremely important. So think about all of those things.
Perfect. Sarah?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, for me, I think it would come down to building an evaluation from day one. You know, define what success looks like and measure what matters to you into the problem space that you're working in. I think that would be key, because if you've got that and you can surface that, you're a long way forward. And then also, obviously, from the things we've been speaking about before, you need to have that clear ownership and accountability embedded around that. Yeah, yeah. So in a way, the same way that we are responsible professionals, and having AI as a toolkit sitting up next to us, it has to be responsible. So we have to make sure that we put those guardrails in. Yeah, that's great. Well, I think that's all the questions.
Thank you, folks. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you.